Welcome everyone, I'm Summer Bock. This is Guts and Glory, and today I'm really excited because I have with me Dr. Tami Meraglia. She is a double board certified MD in both aesthetic medicine and integrative naturopathic medicine, and she's on the faculty of the American Academy of Aesthetic Medicine. She's a keynote speaker for the American Academy of Anti-Aging. As a leading expert in the cosmetic and natural medicine industry, she speaks nationally and internationally and has appeared on Good Morning America, Fox National News, and has hosted multiple radio shows. She's the author of The Hormone Secret, yay, which is one of the big things we're going to talk about today, published by Simon Schuster, and is currently available for pre-order, or is it actually available for order?
You can do a special pre-order for shipping and handling, $9.95 on drtami.com. And then it hits the bookstores all over the country, and it'll be $25 on April 14th.
Woo-hoo!
So, well, I know.
That's so exciting. Well, so Tami lives in Seattle. She's the owner and medical director of Vitality Medspa and Medical Clinic. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Well, so I devoured your book. I thought it was a great read, and I learned a lot. I really enjoyed it. You know, I mean, hormones are not my major forte. I focus on digestion. I focus on fermentation, although I know they have a huge connection. So I was really excited. I mean, I've read some other books on this topic, but yours was so accessible. And one thing I really liked, like my absolute favorite part about it, is that at every moment I felt like you were just telling me exactly everything you knew and exactly how it is. Versus sometimes I read other books and it always feels like there's something they're not telling you that they'll tell you in their program when you buy it over here. But I just appreciated that more than anything, because I felt like it was an incredible resource, and it was such a great resource that I felt like it was the kind of book that I could recommend to my clients all day long and know that they would go there and get everything they needed. So thank you for that.
Oh, I'm so grateful you said that. That was actually an intent of mine when I was writing it. I devour information out there and learn how to best get what I know out there. And I got so frustrated at many of the things that I was reading or viewing that I would learn about 40 to 50 to 60%. And then the only way to get the rest of it was to buy their program or their supplement or their shake. And I do have the shortcuts. I do have a protein and I do have a detox kit, but I've also given every single ingredient in every single dose. All I want to do is be your shortcut. But if you want to go find it yourself, I want to be there to provide you no problems, nothing hidden, full disclosure, all the things that you need if you want to do it your way.
That's awesome. What else do you think makes this book different from all the other hormone books out there?
Well, it's a great question, because there's a lot of hormone books out there. Hormones affect everything from how we look, feel, and function. And so there's so many out there. But I think that one of the things is, I'm a double board certified MD, and, some people think that sounds fancy, but I'm not fancy. I grew up in a very small logging community in Canada. My father was a bricklayer. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. I went to community college to get started in my education. And I have 2 kids. And, I just have the everyday struggles. I know that a lot of information out there says, start your day with a meditation and a walk and a green juice. But for me, it's either that or get my kids' lunches ready for school. So I took the reality that I live, which is just your day-to-day struggles of, a regular mom, wife, and someone who has to get to work on time. And I created the shortcuts. So I took all that evidence-based medicine and all the experience from my day-to-day interactions with thousands and thousands and thousands of patients, and I made it into doable, step-by-step. I'm going to help you. Here's the shortcut. It's kind of like a map. You want to go on this journey called, perimenopause, or 30 to 40 versus all the way to 60 to 70. And how is that going to affect you? Well, it's a journey, and you want a guide to help you go smoothly and fantastically.
Nice. Well, okay, so I was trying to think about how to explain what this book is to people, like in just a little quick summary. Like, what is the Hormone Secret? What are you going to get out of this book? And I think, one way that I would explain it is it talks a lot about the incurables. The things that, we don't have, we don't always have like over-the-counter, well, we have over-the-counter medicine for, but we don't always have like a way to quote-unquote cure it in our whole medical arena. It's the things that you can't remove something to make it go away, right? And so I think that's what's really fascinating about this information is it's talking about some of the really sticky stuff. And I talk a lot about that with digestive wellness. And so I thought it was really cool, the overlap of the symptoms that you mentioned with a lot of the hormone imbalances and digestive issues, as well as like adrenal fatigue. So adrenal fatigue and brain fog are huge in the world of digestion. Like if your digestive tract is not working well, those are two really likely situations that are going on for you. And that's why I was really excited to have you here for everybody watching this who is already paying attention to what I'm talking about and, sharing stuff about digestion, adrenal stuff. We talk about allergies. We talk about asthma. We talk about all these things that you mentioned through hormones. And why I think that's really valuable is that I'm talking about it from this one angle, but there's people who are coming to me who may actually, going this route, get an even greater benefit because this is potentially more, in alignment with what their body is dealing with. Can you tell us a little bit more about this like concept of these, I don't know what you would call them, these like issues that all kind of pop up around hormone imbalance that aren't the traditional ones, that aren't just like a typical reproductive issue?
Well, I think that what the problem is that in our country and in most of the industrialized countries, if you're not sick, you're fine. And the absence of disease does not equal wellness. It just means you're not sick. And so there is this gray area where women especially are not feeling energized throughout the day. I know for myself, I was struggling and just had given myself all these excuses for why my energy was low. Oh, I have small kids. Oh, I go to work. My life is busy. I didn't have enough time to get enough sleep. All those things. But really, it really points to a hormone imbalance. Also the weight, those 10 or 15 pounds that the tricks in your 20s aren't working anymore. It's because it's your hormones and brain fog and just becoming less patient, not losing your cool, but a little bit more struggle. And, one of the biggest things is you become unfun. That spontaneous laughter, that enjoyment, that freedom. As we're going through these hormone changes, those are one of the first things that are lost, that lightness to life. And the gut and digestion is so important because your hormones are made from ingredients, and food, as we now know, and you talk about all the time, it's not just calories, it's information. But if you're not absorbing it because your gut isn't working, then it doesn't matter what you're doing. Your hormones are going to be out of whack because you don't have those ingredients. So the book gives you a 30-day plan of exactly what ingredients you need to boost your adrenal function. And each chapter has a quiz to find out what hormone or hormones you might be deficient in and how to boost those naturally, no prescription, nutrition, supplements, and lifestyle changes that have been proven in studies to really reboot your biology. But boy, oh boy, does it help if your gut is absorbing those ingredients.
Right. Then you have those micronutrients to be able to supply your body with basically everything it needs to do what it does naturally. I think that most people don't realize their body isn't working because they don't have what they need for it to work.
Right.
And
you just kind of have to give your body what it needs and get out of the way at the same time.
Exactly. Well, so that interesting thing too is this connection with the liver. Can you just talk a little bit about what does the liver have to do with hormones?
Isn't that the craziest thing? But it's one of the most important things, and that's how my book starts. Your liver does everything for you. It has all the enzymes that activate your hormones. You can have all the thyroid hormone that you want, that you have in your body and that you want to have. But if your liver is congested, it's not going to convert that thyroid hormone into the active thyroid hormone that can rock your life. The same with excess hormones. You've got to get rid of the bad guys and get the new guys. The vitamins and minerals that are the coenzymes for the creation of these hormones. Your liver is so important that I literally started with it in my book to explain what you need to do to prime the pump to get the most out of your hormone sort of focus and get the most with the least amount of effort. Everybody thinks that, their liver is taken for granted, but you would never do that with your car. You get an oil change because the filter is going to actually literally ruin your car if you don't swap it out and get a clean filter in there. But we don't pay any attention to our liver unless it's dysfunctional to the point of showing up in a blood test. And by the time it's shown up into a blood test, it's so injured, it's leaching enzymes into your bloodstream. It has to deal with everything that we breathe, absorb, and there's so many things out of our control. The fire retardant on our furniture and on our mattresses, the foods that we eat at restaurants, the pollution, that we just need to take care of our liver and clean it out once or twice a year.
I talk a lot about the liver, obviously, because of digestion, and something I've noticed is that when people have basically what I would say like dysbiosis or candida, any kind of issue where there's an overgrowth of bacteria in the intestinal tract somewhere, they're often dealing with an excess of toxicity internally, and that toxicity still has to be filtered by the liver. And so I've seen a lot of the symptoms that you talk about with hormonal imbalance. I've seen that a lot in my clients. And I'm seeing now like that connection is so clear because their liver is basically completely overworked with toxicity from dysbiosis and all these other issues. It just doesn't have time to regulate the hormones. And I'm guessing, based on everything I've read with anatomy and physiology, the liver is going to prioritize digestion over hormone function. Would that be correct?
Well, and even more than that is toxins. Your glass of wine is poisonous. It's literally going to kill you. Yes, it will. But that's what the liver's for. It processes that poison to a point where it's not going to kill you or harm you. So it is. You're exactly right. It's kind of like the airport security. Your liver can only do one thing at a time. And it says to the hormones, you know what? This isn't life or death. We're going to put you to the back of the line. We need to deal with this alcohol. We need to deal with this pesticide. We need to deal with this skincare chemical that we're putting on every single day. We have to deal with all of that. There's been 20,000 new chemicals introduced to our food and our environment since the Second World War, and those are only the ones that have been reported. We don't even hear about some of it because it's not required. If there's some sort of secondary version of a initial chemical, we don't have to have a report of that. So we are overburdened, and the liver, unlike a lot of other areas of your body, stores these toxins for years.
Ouch.
Yeah, we gotta clean it out. Spring clean.
Yep. Well, so you mentioned wine. I did like a 40-day, no wine, no alcohol, no sugar, no caffeine, no chocolate. And yeah, it was really fun. It was actually like really, really good. My creativity and my brain function and my ability to just like show up at work and have tons of good ideas and feel like they were good ideas. I think like on some level, like my confidence shot through the roof because it wasn't even confidence. It's just like this continual inner knowing. And like, how do you describe that? Like that was probably my number one best symptom was, increased inner knowing, because I already do eat pretty clean. Like it wasn't an incredibly drastic thing, but it was a big decision to say no to these and say no to them every day over and over for that long. And I'm just kind of curious your thoughts, because those are all things that the liver has to process. Those are all things that have effect on our hormones and different hormones. Any thoughts on the big ones there? Those are the big ones that people don't want to say no to. People are, really afraid to like say goodbye to their coffee or whatever. And I'm not necessarily asking you to just say that unless that's what you believe, but I'm curious.
Actually, what I believe is two things. One is the studies are clear. Sugar drops your hormones, especially testosterone. Without the most abundant amount of testosterone in your body as a woman, you cannot have your fat to muscle ratio be the best. Your bones can't be the best. Your confidence can't be your best. Your brain can't be your best. Just on and on and on. Blood test before and after eating sugar is shocking. Your testosterone will go down by between 20 to 30%. It just is what it is. And we got to live. And so I have what's called the 80-20 rule. And I figure if 80% of what you're putting in your body feeds your cells, then 20% can feed your satisfaction. And that's something that works in my family life and with my patients, because I find that you got to find something that works for you long term. Now, if you want to do something like you did once in a while to sort of clean everything out, that's wonderful. But for most people, that's not sustainable. That's like holding your breath. And so I think when you have 80% of what you're eating and putting into your body is going to feed your cells, you're actually going to have cells that can handle the 20% even better anyway.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. So you mentioned testosterone, and I think
it's my favorite.
That's your favorite. And you're talking a lot to women about women's testosterone levels. So
yeah.
Is that essentially the hormone secret?
It is.
Okay.
You got it. That we don't need a lot. In fact, we need a very, very small amount. But this has an outsized role in how you look, feel, and function. If I had to pick one hormone that had the most effect on every area of your body, it would be testosterone. So it's one of those things that you can get your own body to boost the production and to utilize it and to make sure you don't have any scary side effects.
Got it. Well, okay, so when I think of testosterone, I think of like increased like facial hair growth and
acne.
Yeah, and like actually even like bulkier muscles and things like this that we've heard about from people taking testosterone for more of a steroidal purpose, but also I've heard of this in other ways as well. I'm curious, how does that play out for women who are trying to increase their testosterone?
Well, first of all, these 90% of women over the age of 40 have low to non-existent testosterone. So when your body isn't producing enough, it is unlikely that given a few nutritional changes and supplements, it's going to all of a sudden produce too much. What we're doing is we're just backing up the clock to the point in your life where your testosterone helped your weight management and helped your confidence and helped your mood and helped your bones. So it's really not about taking testosterone or bringing it to such a high level that you're going to have side effects. And it's pretty unlikely because your poor adrenal glands, they're just struggling anyways with your 24/7 lifestyle. So testosterone boosting is going to be improved. It's going to matter, but it's not going to be enough to have these side effects. It just doesn't happen. And I've seen thousands and thousands and thousands of women. And so I see this in my practice all the time and in my own life. I had my practice when I was younger and I had 2 small children, and I just thought I was so tired because of all of that. And so I checked my hormones, and my progesterone was very, very low. And so I replaced that, and my sleep got better and my peacefulness got better. And I just thought, oh, this is my favorite hormone, progesterone. And then I continued on, and I thought, I should really look at testosterone, because I was just like my colleagues. I wasn't looking at testosterone for women. I just thought, that doesn't make sense. That's not my philosophy. The whole symphony has to be there. All of the symphony, all of the instruments make the concert what it is. And so I checked my testosterone, and it was non-existent. So I did the research, and I always start with myself. And so I started boosting my own testosterone with the supplements and lifestyle changes and the nutrition changes. And I lost almost 10% body fat. My weight didn't change, but I was a skinny fat person, and I lost the fat. So now I was a healthier person. I also became more confident, sometimes women second guess themselves, like, oh, did I sound cranky when I said that? Or, oh, did I hurt their feelings? I never used to think of that. And some of us think that that's just becoming wise, but some of it is just this underlying lack of being our full self confidently. And I gained that back. And so it was just an amazing experience to be able to be strong and confident in my own body. And that happened with the testosterone.
That is lovely. I mean, for anybody, and I'm really sensitive when it comes to hormones. Like, I'm one of those people, like I've tried various kinds of birth control and with hormones, and all of it was a mess because it would just fluctuate, those kinds of things, like my moods or that kind of confidence, and just getting really sort of low confidence and kind of indecisive. And, it's a bizarre, it was just like, these incredibly low doses of hormones, and amazing how much that affects just your own mental state and quickly.
Well, and also, yeah, we are who we are because of our hormones. You just have to look at a 12-year-old girl to know that. Your hormones affect everything. But one of the reasons why people have such a strong reaction to birth control pills is that our bodies are so innately amazing and intelligent. Birth control pills are, the estrogens and other things are synthetic, and they're not just like ours. They're in fact made from the urine of a pregnant horse. And surprisingly, your body knows you're not a horse. So it does create this inflammation, and from the gut work how bad inflammation is.
Yeah, well, I actually want to talk about inflammation. This is one of my biggest questions that I had when reading your book, because I've noticed so for myself, like I probably have like that tendency towards the low progesterone, estrogen dominance kind of situation. And I've noticed that with I'll get tender breasts before my period, and coffee, chocolate, and any kind of even green tea, those will exacerbate it or can even bring it on. But there have been times in my life when I've been able to drink those things or eat chocolate and have no symptoms. And I've just I spent years kind of tracking this and trying to figure it out. And one thing that I noticed was it could potentially be connected to cortisol for me.
Absolutely.
A stress. So when there's stress, so can you talk about that? Why would that happen with cortisol? Why would that happen with more stress?
It's one step, so easy to explain. Progesterone deficiency, or a lower progesterone than your estrogen, like you're talking about estrogen dominance, is the cause for tender breasts and even some PMS, moodiness and cramping and things like that. When you have more stress, cortisol blocks the receptors for progesterone.
Okay, wait a minute. When you have more stress, then cortisol blocks the receptors for, so your low progesterone is now lower, essentially, or unable to correct itself.
Any good.
So you can't be stressed out. That's the answer. You are not allowed to be stressed out.
You can.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about that, because that's in my book too. It's in the Adrenal chapter. And I think that it's a big, big myth that we have stress and no stress, and that we can manage our stress or lower our stress. I don't know about you, but most people can't. The young kids can't get their dinner. You can't fire your boss. I mean, there's just so much that is out of your control. Your stress is usually kind of fixed. So the reality is that there's stress. Then there's this middle portion of when we're relaxing and on our iPad and watching TV. That's not relaxing. That's just merely the lack of more stress. What we need to do in these situations and on a daily basis is remove the stress by activating the relaxation response. And it's contrary to the way we think in this country, but we actually have to do something to relax, because we have to turn on the relaxation response. And there's some pretty powerful research showing that breathing meditation and just regular meditation, these things actually stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, which turns on your relaxation response. So I like to compare it to food and teeth. You're like, what? Teeth? So the food is like stress. Happens all day long, right? And then, so at night, you stop eating. That's like sitting and relaxing in front of the TV. But if you leave that food on your teeth overnight, day after day after day, it's going to create cavities, dental disease, heart disease. The bacteria in your mouth is associated with heart disease, and all kinds of decrease in your vitality because you left this on. So what do? We brush and we floss. That's exactly the same as stress. Happens all day. It is what it is. But what you need to do is you need to brush and floss your cells to get rid of the inflammation that kind of polluted it all day with meditation and or breathing.
Mm-hmm. I think also for some people, it's like actually taking action on frozen stressors that they're paralyzed with, that they're not doing anything about. I've worked with a lot of people at this point because stress is such a huge part of digestive issues and like creating a leaky gut situation. Stress can often be like the bomb that kind of explodes and just like starts causing all the problems. And I agree with you. It's like there's going to be an amount of stress that you're never going to be able to relieve. You can't just like, I would guess that there's probably a handful of people who live on Hawaii and just like surf every day, and that's like they live the blissful life. But that's not. There's a lot of people who wouldn't even be happy with that. And I think, something that I've noticed, I call it rest and restore. Like if you want your body to heal, it has to be in a state of rest and restore. And there are so many people dealing with stressors that could be handled in a few steps and be out of their lives.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because our stress response, when your sympathetic nervous system is stimulated, your response is fight, flight, or freeze. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about the people that in that stress response, they freeze. And they do need to face it, take a deep breath and do something about it, because that's being frozen is exactly what it sounds like. You're not moving.
Yep. I think people who are in fight or flight, who respond with fight or the flight one, tend to like keep moving and getting stuff done with stress, but it's the people who respond with freeze that will actually kind of stay frozen in this stuck spot for a while without realizing what's going on. But that's interesting. I'm really glad that you made that connection for me about progesterone and cortisol, because I've been watching that pattern, and it's been bizarre. And so just another level and sort of another question with that. So once you have, like if you have inflammation in the system somewhere else, does inflammation trigger cortisol, or is it cortisol triggers inflammation? I'm just kind of curious if there's like a connection there as well.
Yes to both.
Okay.
It's this terrible feedback loop mechanism that is self-perpetuating, which is why inflammation is so hard to stop. And, our inflammatory cytokines are created, and it's in a pathway, but we actually know that it creates a loop over time, kind of like a memory. And you really have to break that loop. And it takes, it's the second law of thermodynamics in physics. You have to take a huge amount of energy just to change. But once you get on that new path, it's a lot easier to maintain.
That would make sense why like even doing like a juice cleanse for 1 or 2 days for some people can be that way to like start the process of healing. And I guess that's probably similar, like you in your program, you do like for 2 weeks a liver cleanse first.
Yeah, it's like this might not be the best example because microwaves aren't that good for you or your food, but it's kind of like the microwave. Like I can bake something and it can take an hour, or I can put it in the microwave for 3/4 of that and take 3/4 of that time and then finish it off in the oven to get it to be proper. So for lack of a better example, the liver cleanse actually is your microwave to get you fast forwarded through the process and to really change directions and allow your body to move forward more easily.
That's great. Well, then tell everybody a little bit more about that, like this whole overall plan of, if somebody goes through, they are clear that these are their symptoms, whether it's, something to do with estrogen or progesterone or the testosterone, and they're going to start trying to regulate their levels through your, great recommendations, by the way. I've used some of these recommendations and have found them to be really powerful in myself and my clients. And I'm just kind of curious, like at that point, like what else do they do?
Well, the first part is the liver cleanse for everyone. There's no one that can't benefit from the liver cleanse. And then there's a quiz in each chapter for you to take what is needed. But then the other part that everybody needs to do is to take care of their adrenal glands, because those are our factory. You know, in our late 20s and throughout our 30s, our ovaries have decided that they're no longer needed, and they're slowly shutting down the production of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And our adrenal glands are the backup system. They're supposed to be taking over. But the problem is that our 24/7 lifestyle is robbing and hijacking our quality of life, because the adrenal glands are so busy producing and dealing with stress and inflammation that they literally do not have the time, energy, or the leftover ingredients. Because remember, your body has to make these hormones. It's not some magical ethereal thing. It's actually a substance that can be measured, and it needs ingredients, and there's only so much because that's what you put in. So it doesn't have any leftover. There's a well-documented thing that happens that's called cortisol steal. And I talk about this in the adrenal chapter, where your body will steal the raw ingredients that your body should be having to make testosterone and progesterone, and it'll use it to make cortisol. The reason is that cortisol was our life maintaining, you know, fight or flight, run away from the bear, keep you alive hormone. And your body doesn't really know that the traffic jam isn't a bear. So it will produce cortisol at all costs.
Because it needs to save your life at all costs. And that's kind of what it's thinking, that there's a bear chasing you right now, even though you're just sitting in traffic, getting pissed off.
Yep. And, you know, in medicine over time, there's been some sad studies done on animals. We're getting better, but it is what it is. And many, many years ago, they studied adrenals, and they removed the adrenals from animals who were healthy, and they died in 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Can't live without them.
Nope. The cardiologists think the heart's the most important, and you know, all this stuff.
Wow.
Nope. It's the adrenal glands, and they're tiny, tiny little walnut-sized glands that sit on top of your kidneys, and so they really can get fatigued over time. Some of the ways you might know you have adrenal fatigue is that you wake up in the morning more tired than when you went to bed, and that your afternoon dip, everybody has a dip in their energy at about 3 p.m., but if your dip is a dive, there's something wrong. And lots of people crave salt. The adrenals and aldosterone have a lot to do with each other, and so people who have adrenal fatigue crave salt. So all of these things can be fixed.
So what's next after that? What do you do? Like, so somebody does the liver cleanse and then they do adrenal work to help get their energy levels back. And I'm assuming also that's going to increase your ability to be in that state of relaxation.
Yeah, because you're not in the fight, flight, or freeze all the time. So the adrenals can then go on to deal with hormones that bless your life instead of stress your life. And after you do that, you really go into a customized thing. My book is really set up to be able to be customized to you with the quizzes and things. Now, lots and lots of people have all of their hormones in decline as we get into our 50s and 60s, but they rarely decline at the same rate. So you might find that you have more of one than the other. And then some people are actually estrogen dominant. So it's a really great guide for you to be able to pick and choose and customize what you need, and be there as a guide over and over and over again as your life changes, because we're not static. So you might find in a few years you're no longer estrogen dominant, and you're starting to wake up with what I call warm moments, not quite a hot flash, but a warm moment where you look around and go, nobody else is warm. Okay. And so you might go back to the book and go, okay, it's time for the estrogen chapter.
Got it. Yep. That makes sense. So, okay. So how do people go and get access to this book right now? Because you mentioned there's like a special pre-order happening at the moment.
Yes, I'm very, very lucky to be able to offer it for shipping and handling for $9.95. on drtami.com, drtami.com. And it's only while supplies last, and it'll go into the bookstores in April, and all the major bookstores, and it'll retail for $25. So the hard copy is a great deal. And Summer, I believe that women can change the world. And I know that sounds kind of lofty, but you remember the organic movement, and they thought that, oh, this is just going to be some trendy little Berkeley thing. Well, we changed the entire economy by making choices. And I believe that if women can get to be their best, their most vibrant, strong, and healthy, they will change their families, their communities, and the world at large. It's like that airplane. You've got to put the oxygen on yourself in order to help anybody else. And so I think of this as almost a movement that we can literally make this planet healthier by starting with some natural ways to be our best.
I absolutely agree with that 100%, because I always tell my clients, like my women clients, you're the leader of nutrition in your household. You know, that's where this has been going on for a long time, you know, and like carry that torch. There's no reason that you can't be in charge of knowing what it is that people should be putting in their bodies and setting that example. And people will come to me asking if I work with kids, and I don't work with kids. I work with parents. I'll work with somebody to help them get their diet figured out, so that what they're doing is then something they can model, because kids learn by watching, you know? Yeah. And I just think it's the most important thing. I think that's exactly right. Well, this book I feel like has so much information for people, and what you said, drtami.com, and that's where you go to get the information. That's fantastic. So how, just for those out there, I know people are so curious, because I have a lot of friends who are either writing books or wanting to write books. How long did it take you to write this? Tell us a little bit about the process.
So the writing part was easy, actually, because this is the stuff I go over every day with my patients. But even though it was quote unquote easy, writing down that many words is a process, and it took me over a year.
You mentioned you wrote every single word in this book.
Yeah. I did have an amazing wordsmith, so I would just throw it all to her, and she would just put it into chapters, because that was the part that I just didn't want to worry about. I wanted to just kind of just flow and get everything out that I thought would bless people's lives, and really to inspire women that they can be the CEO of their own health, and here's how.
Yeah, well, it's really well organized and all of that. So I think your wordsmith did a good job, but I'm just so impressed that you put that all together. It took you just about a year. That's pretty impressive.
The research, I wanted everything to be backed by research. So that's where the majority of the time took, is finding the really evidence-based clinical trials that proved that all of these things weren't just my opinion, they were actually statistically significant. And so I wanted this to be really a book that would stand the test of time.
I think it will. Hey, I have a question about maca in particular, and I don't know if you've heard of this or not, but I read on a forum not that long ago that maca traditionally was eaten cooked, not raw. It's one of the most ancient herbs. So it started raw, then it got cooked, and then it was back to raw, and now powdered in capsules and tea and extracted. Everything. And then I've also read that it's in the nightshade family. So is this do you have any concerns about maca, like people eating it raw versus cooked, or avoiding it if they have inflammation and they're avoiding other nightshades for other issues?
I think that the nightshade issue is minimal. Plus the amount of maca that if you take a maca capsule compared to eating, 3 tomatoes or 2 potatoes, that's quite different in the quantity. And it's not strongly, acting like a nightshade. It's more a medicinal herb. And it's the most ancient. It was for vitality is what it was thought to be for. And it turns out that it has so much effect on our hormones. But not by increasing the quantity, which is really exciting, just by taking the hormones off of their carrier proteins, so it has more activity. So there again, another protection from having side effects, because you're not boosting the quantity, you're just boosting the activity.
I have this recipe for chocolate truffles where you add maca, chocolate, and then usually like maple syrup, and that's it. You just mix it together, and then you have these like little truffle balls. And I was sharing that recipe with a lot of my clients for a while, especially if they had a lot of these like low energy, mostly it was for people I was trying to get them off of coffee and helping them with their energy levels. And they had, various issues going on, and it worked great. But across the board, all of these women were like, "Oh my gosh, my sex life."
I know, that's the testosterone.
Crazy. I mean, it was across the board. They would call me like, "I don't know I think I figured out that it's the maca."
Yeah, it is. It's my favorite testosterone hormone.
That's amazing. Yeah. No, that one is really fun, and I just wanted to put that in there for people in case they haven't had that experience yet. Try some maca.
Testosterone's going to rock your life and your bedroom.
That's great. So I'm also curious if let's see, I think I have all my questions here. Yeah, I mean, this has been so awesome hearing you just like talk about all of these specific things, and I feel like you answered a question that I've had for years. So for that alone, I am very thankful.
My pleasure. We should have talked about that before.
I know. I should have just called you up.
Hey, what's up with this?
Well, I mean, is there anything else? Like, what else would you like to share with people?
I think that one of the things that I'd like is for people to share this message. There seems to be two camps of women. The ones that are elevating and supporting and sharing, and then the other camp where women treat each other worse than snakes. So I want to inspire, request, and get women to realize that health is contagious, just like diseases. And you can pass it on, and it will make everything in your life, if the people around you are healthier, that will make your life better. And so that's the last thing. Yes, this is about you, but don't be afraid to share it, because it will make everything about your life better by making everyone else healthier.
Wonderful. Awesome. So everyone, go check out Dr. Tami's book, The Hormone Secret. It is a fantastic read, and regardless should be in your library so that you have some access to this amazing resource. I mean, I think it has everything from these recommendations for herbs and supplements, as well as quizzes so you can see where you're at. But it also has how to read your test results. She goes all the way with this information. She doesn't hold anything back.
And recipes.
Oh, right. Recipes too. So go check this out. drtami.com to get her information. Tami, thank you so much for being here. This has been awesome. And everyone, this is Summer Bock and Tami Meraglia signing out.
Thank you.